Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today I want to talk a little bit about DELPHOX, dive into the entire discussion about this character, our brand newest attacker, in kind of this commentary style, which I don't really feel like I get to do enough of because I always have to think of a fun topic to talk about. But the question of today is DELPHOX overpowered? Is DELPHOX meta defining? And overall, this is basically my kind of not first impressions, but more of like second impressions on the character. What do I think now that I've had like a couple of days of playing it? I've watched other people play it. I've seen other people's builds, their opinions, their thoughts. I'm kind of pulling it all together for this video. So let's go ahead and dive into it. DELPHOX is our newest attacker, and it definitely leads into the archetype of like the mage. I feel like this is something that y'all probably hear me say every now and then. I'll go ahead and clarify it. Attackers in this game are basically split into two different categories that are combined under one umbrella term of attacker. So you have your SP attackers, and then you have your physical attackers, or just normal attack. This game just calls it attack. The other one's called special attack. And that often means that your SP attackers are kind of like the mage archetype, and the physical attackers are the attack damage carries, or AD carries. So if you ever hear me say AD carry, it stands for attack damage carry. That's your Duraludon, Decidueye, Greninja, Cinder. Pretty much every other SP attacker is mage. Like Venusaur with Hyper Beam is definitely very magey. It's a little bit weird in Petal Giga. That's a pretty unique kit actually. But Gardevoir is a mage, Pikachu, Ninetales, mage, Cramorant's a mage. Like all these characters are very magey. They rely on their abilities for damage as opposed to their auto attacks. So DELPHOX, our newest mage, and let's go ahead and just start off with Fire Spin. The move is strong. The move is really strong. I don't think that it's overpowered. Now, wait. If you do nerf this ability, it has to just be on like its duration on the field, or like the chase duration of it, or whatever you want to call it, because I don't want to see this move gutted. If you gut this move, I worry that the character itself won't be very strong, and that's really kind of the linchpin here. I think that that's really what's creating such a nice situation for DELPHOX. You've got Mystical Fire or Fire Blast that you can play with it. I think it feels like the majority of people that I'm seeing play it are really leaning into Mystical Fire. I like both. I think it's a cool kind of dynamic that like Mystical Fire is the long range, more precise kind of like snipe, and it will reduce the cooldown if you use it properly at the plus level. And then Fire Blast is just kind of like the, hey, it's shorter range, it's easier to hit because it's kind of like a wider projectile, but it actually does more damage. So it's got like the initial hit and then it pops. And the actual scalings, if you look at the damage, compare the damage numbers, actually does a little bit more damage. Now, as for the Unite move, we finally have a kind of really unique mechanic with it. First and foremost, it's just a strong Unite move, huge range, very Gardevoir-esque. The character in general is very Gardevoir-esque, and introduces the reduced healing. Now, from the testing that I've heard, I haven't done it myself, it reduces healing by about 50%, which is pretty significant. So team fight wise has pretty big implications to swing a fight, both with damage that it's dealing and kind of like the healing reduction that it's doing, because characters that inherently are healing themselves are going to experience that less. And I don't know what all sources of healing that affects. Like if someone is getting low with a focus band popped under your Unite move, does that reduce that incoming healing, or does that item effect itself stay consistent? What all falls into the umbrella of HP healing reduced, or whatever, however it's titled? I don't actually know. So the implications of that particular mechanic is really interesting, and we'll have to kind of like probably test that going forward to see what all it covers. But we do know that it takes over tower healing as well, or it influences tower healing, goal healing as well. So really interesting for diving towers, for using it in that unique way. And overall, the character feels very strong. So where do we put it on the tier list? I think for me personally, it's feeling like if you look at my tier list, I have like an S, A plus A, B plus B, etc. I'm thinking it's feeling A plus. I think it feels very strong without being broken. The thing that would tip it into S tier to me is if it was just like one-shotting people in a combo. It's not, but it does do really, really big damage. So the character feels very, very strong. I'm thinking A plus tier. I think that it could be a jungler in 5 stacks if a team finds a comp for it. I think that it could easily be a lane attacker. Depending on how it feels in the tri-lane, I'll have to see. I'm not 100% sure what it looks like in the tri-lane. We haven't played it in 5 stacks yet on my end specifically, but if it can tri-lane well, then yeah, we'll definitely see it in the tri-lane. And I think it can, just from where I'm sitting at the moment. And then it could definitely jungle. So DELPHOX feels really strong, meta defining. Yes, I think so. I think that we will start to see this character introduced more and more into the competitive scene. I'm not sure if it's going to be allowed in the regional finals that's coming up, and that's going to be interesting because the regional finals I think are in like a week. And so that would give the character over a week or about a week's time to be played in order for the teams to kind of prepare for the regional finals and add it in, but we'll see what the ruling on that is in the future. Now, the question to you is, what do you think about it? What is your preferred build? Where do you think it's falling meta-wise? Now, I do want to touch on Flame Charge a little bit because I want to make sure that I give it a decent amount of representation here. Like I said, Mystical Fire I think is great. Flame Charge, wait, no, Fire Blast. Oh my gosh, my brain. Fire Blast I think is great. Flame Charge I think is really unique, but the character being incredibly squishy, like really, really squishy, is the definition of a glass cannon. And I've had some good Flame Charge, like Mystical Fire games where you're just kind of dashing around, resetting your cooldowns or lowering your cooldowns. And, you know, I've used Razor Claw Energy Amplifier on it. I've done some crazy stuff with it, but it feels really hard to play that build. If you've played DELPHOX a decent amount, you know that getting dove on is basically a death sentence. You know, you don't really have a ton of mobility, and so even with the Flame Charge kind of like dashing, like almost like magey, like auto attacker kind of like battle magey build, it's very, very unique build. It's fun to play. It just feels really volatile to play. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Flame Charge and whether or not you think that could bring some decent viability to the character, or even if you're preferring it over say Fire Spin, because Fire Spin I think it's just very magey, very setup focused, and gives that Gardevoir feeling. Now, in regards to the kind of like comparison that I've made to Gardevoir, I think that the reason why is mostly the range, right? It's that kind of, I don't have mobility for myself feeling. When you take Fire Spin, you just have no mobility, but I can do a lot of setup and I can do a lot of bursts. So the character inherently feels good when you have people that will peel for you, when you have people that you're playing with, but in solo queue, it doesn't feel terrible because it is, you know, able to do some good damage. But at the same time, you get dove on, you're just kind of alone and you have to fend for yourself, and it can be really, really hard. I got dove by a Mamoswine, that killed me. Get dove by a Gengar, that's pretty much over. Absol gets to you, Greninja gets to you, Cinderace, Blaze kicks over you. All of these things will kill you very, very quickly. So the character does not feel overpowered to me. I think that it actually feels very balanced, and in some ways maybe could even use some buffs, but I would love to hear your thoughts. So friends, thank you so much for checking out this video. I definitely do appreciate it. Drop a like on the video for me if you wouldn't mind. Subscribe to the channel for future Pokemon Unite content. As always, be sure to be kind to one another. Tell someone you love them, and I'll see you in the next video.